Hey folks, David Stewart here. I was just kind of musing in my own mind and looking at some comments on the last Star Wars video I made, and thinking about what the rot at the core of new Star Wars actually is, because I kind of feel like it's a tree where the heartwood is all rotted out, and on the outside it looks like a tree. It has bark, you can even touch it, and it feels like a tree. It has branches, it has roots, and those branches might even be alive because the roots are working. But you touch the tree, and it's soft, and it crumbles, and it falls over and turns into dust because there's no heartwood. There's nothing supporting the center of the tree. And that feeling I get expressed to me a lot by older fans of Star Wars, that it doesn't feel like Star Wars. And they watch it and it's like it looks like Star Wars, it sounds like Star Wars, kind of, but it doesn't feel like Star Wars. Like there's something profoundly missing. And all these little expressions that people have, if we go through and we talk about all the details that are wrong with the new Star Wars movie or the last one or whichever one you pick out, people can come up with like a similar list of things that were not good about some other Star Wars movie that George Lucas did. And both of those are kind of like missing the point, because the George Lucas movies felt like Star Wars. So what is that feeling? That I kept thinking, like, what is the feeling? Because it's one of the reasons that someone like Rian Johnson can write a really bad movie in terms of the script and the story for The Last Jedi, while presenting something that's visually quite stunning, and he's done other movies that are good. So how did he not manage to do this one? Like, what is it about Star Wars that has made the movie bad? And it's that missing heart, it's that missing core. And if you don't have the core of that, then all the other expressions are going to be wrong. And a lot of people said, well, this is the corporate version of Star Wars. They like suck all the heart out of it. And it's kind of true, but I think it's just their fundamental misunderstanding of Star Wars, at the setting level, and also just in terms of themes and things like that. That's really the sort of missing core of it. Because I think what Disney has decided is that Star Wars is, or what Star Wars ought to be, and of course they're looking at a market. Like, what does the market want Star Wars to be? That the market wants Star Wars to be the aesthetics from the original trilogy and the special effects from the original trilogy kind of hyped up into the 21st century. So what they want is the world and the characters created by George Lucas and the visual design of Ralph McQuarrie, and that's what Star Wars is. And actually, I probably have a hard time arguing with them on that and saying that the Star Wars is something other than that, because obviously audiences are buying tickets, and a lot of people are really liking the new Star Wars movies, which isn't so baffling when you understand that most people are probably going to view any particular artistic product as some function of the aesthetic appeal to it rather than like the deeper meaning to it. And so the missing core of Star Wars, I said they have a fundamental misunderstanding of like what Star Wars is, and at the setting level, the missing core is reason. It's the deeper reason that things happen in the Star Wars stories. If you go back to the original trilogy, it's a really simple, the first movie starts off with an incredibly simple plot setup, a really, really simple sort of inciting event, which is there's an evil empire. You just have to know they're evil, and they're building a massive new weapon, and so we have to find a way to stop that. And it's a pretty easy inciting incident. We don't really need to know that the galactic, somehow the Galactic Empire formed, but we just know that they're evil, right, and that we need to stop them. Well, you go all the way through the Return of the Jedi, and then you finally defeat the Emperor and blow him away, and he's done, and the war is won. And so when you watch Force Awakens and it picks up after that, and nothing has changed, you realize that the core that's missing is any kind of reason for that conflict to exist. Is that we've kind of resolved the conflict in a previous movie. Now it would be time for a new conflict, not the same conflict. But Disney has, like I said, they view it as the aesthetics, and that means that you have to have the Empire, because the stormtroopers are a big part of what makes Star Wars look the way it looks. So you have to just continue what was rather than think of something new. And there's no reason to continue what was when you've completely wrapped up that conflict at the end of Return of the Jedi. And then with the prequels, you have a journey towards that conflict. It's an explanation of where that conflict arises from. And that's, whether you like the prequels or not, at the heart of all of those movies is a story with a reason to exist. The characters are acting with intent and motivation that is correct for them, and the story is going somewhere. The story has a point. The characters are acting out something that is important, something that has a reason to exist. The Emperor, Palpatine, is acting to bring about the Empire. The Jedi are acting what they think is the interests of the Republic, but are being sort of subverted and kind of turned against their own ideals. And that's really kind of the story of the prequels. There's a lot of, in fact, the prequels really have a deeper level of story meaning, I think, than the original trilogy. The original trilogy is pretty simple when you stop and think about it, and there's a spiritual layer that's on top of the original trilogy, but the prequels kind of have to me, some like deeper themes. But both of them, there's reasons for those things to happen. Those things exist with purpose and with meaning, and what you don't have in these newer movies is things existing with purpose and meaning. That was my complaint about Rogue One, is like the movie's pointless. We already know all the outcomes. The outcomes were listed in a role. Why did George Lucas not make Rogue One? It's because he wanted to skip to the interesting parts. He wanted to skip to the main conflict that centers around that Death Star. He wanted to skip to the real deal. And it's not that like the story of Rogue One necessarily never be interesting. It's just that certainly when it's expressed with Disney in mind, with all the reshoots, what they did is they ripped out whatever part might have been in that story, and there might have been one. I would really love to see an original director's cut of Rogue One, because I felt like there was some good movie left in there, but it had been stripped out and replaced with fan service moments, like Darth Vader like wrecking stuff in some corridor. Just to go back to what Disney thinks Star Wars movies are about, which is the aesthetic rather than the reason for those conflicts. And so to me, the skipping out on the reasons is the fundamental like rot of new Star Wars, and that's the misunderstanding of Disney executives of what fans loved about Star Wars and why they got attached to the stories. Because pretty pictures are one thing. There's been many pretty pictures over the years. Why has Star Wars remained? Is it the prettiest pictures of them all? I don't know about that. There certainly have always been technically great in terms of like visuals, but I think that there's like a deeper effect that people have, especially when you get to like the conclusion and like the closing of the window at the end of Return of the Jedi, that like things have kind of been brought to their conclusion, and redemption has happened, and all these sorts of things. Like there's reasons that Anakin goes to the dark side, right? Anakin goes to the dark side because he wants to, save his wife, and he's seduced. And there's reasons for other people going to the dark side. There's reasons for Count Dooku doing things. Is there a reason for Kylo Ren? Even with the Last Jedi reveal, it's like there's not this reason. They just kind of like, well, he has the dark side within him. It's like that's a cop-out. That's not the way that any of the other characters have acted before. They've always been seduced to the evil of the dark side. They've been seduced to power because of what it offers them. And that theme is missing from The Last Jedi. It really is. And when you look at it at a deeper level, it definitely is. There's no reason for Snoke to exist, and then there's no reason for him to get killed, really. And there's no reason for Rey to do most of the things she does. There's no reason for Luke to be doing what he's doing in The Last Jedi. There's no reason for the rebels to do any of the stuff that they do. In fact, they stop saying resistance at some points, just start saying rebels, and just to reinforce that nothing has changed from the original trilogy, which again is missing that heartwood that should support the tree. There's no reason for her, the commander of the resistance fleet, I guess, to not inform her subordinates as to what they're going to do. There's no reason for them to execute the plan they execute. There's no reason for them to go to the casino planet. There's like nothing occurs with any particular anything behind it. And so you kind of feel that, and you feel that on those movies, that there's no deeper meaning to the conflict. It really is just like an aesthetic presentation, and maybe it's like some kind of weird, like postmodernist. If you view it through some kind of postmodernist lens, it kind of shows that like all everybody really cares about is pretty pictures, and that the deeper conflicts, the deeper meaning that we assign to things is maybe it's mostly in our heads. Maybe Disney's right, and none of that stuff really matters. You just kind of you kind of mention it so people remember that there was like meaning attached to some other movie, but you don't give it to them because that would because you don't really know that it's there. Like you don't really know what you talk about the Force, but you don't know why people talked about the Force in the other movies. So you just kind of say the words again, and people remember how they felt for the other movie, and no one really knows why it doesn't ever feel right. Well, I'm telling you, it doesn't feel right because they don't have that deep level. There's no purpose to the stories, and we with Force Awakens we began from a place without purpose, and so the next movie, how will they add purpose into this now that they've kind of killed off all the characters? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. So anyway, I just thought I'd give you that little reflection. Let me know what you think down below about the rot at the core of new Star Wars. I'm always quite interested in it. And of course, just a reminder, I do have a new book coming out called Needle Ash. You will get it for free if you join my mailing list. In fact, if you join now, you'll get another book for free of mine. So you get a free gift right away, and then I'll give you that other book later to check out if you were interested in some fantasy literature. So you guys have a good day, and I will see you next time.